Welcome back to another episode of Becoming a Practical Machinist. My name is Rebecca Wolfinger of Mil-Spec Manufacturing. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about red flags that you're going to notice in your customers who are ultimately going to give you a massive headache, or even worse, they're the ones that don't pay on time or at all. I think it's really nice to be able to identify this early on so you can decide, do I want to take a risk with this customer, or maybe I'm just going to no quote and let them walk. Sometimes I'm figuring out that it's better just to let them walk because quality is better over quantity. Just a quick recap if you are new here. My husband and I started Mil-Spec Manufacturing in early 2022 as a remote CAD/CAM programming company. We kept working full-time while programming remotely, and eventually by, summer 2023, we transitioned fully to a brick and mortar and bought our first CNC machine. It's been a really great experience. Lots of ups and downs, as can be expected with the first 2 years of business. And part of that is learning through your mistakes. They are the most invaluable, experiences you could ever ask for in business. There's always something positive you can take away from dealing with things like red flag customers. So let's jump into it, shall we? I figured for this episode, what I would do is not only share the red flag behavior that you're going to be able to pick up immediately, but share a little bit of the story of how we experienced it in real life. That way, if it starts happening to you, you're going to see the red flag and see how it's playing out in your situation, and you'll be like, wait a minute, Becca from Mil-Spec talked about this. Bye, Karen. We're not going to deal with this. So let's jump into it, to our very first red flag, and that's going to be no boundaries. Now, this happened to Curtis and I on our very first customer. This is back when we were still a remote CAD/CAM programming company out of our house. So very first customer, super excited, finally gonna start making money. I understand as a new business, it's really easy to ignore those red flags because you're so excited to finally get the ball rolling. Starting a business is not cheap, and you're very happy to just start generating income so you can keep growing. You can't grow without money. So the customer called, and we were going to work on prototyping and blueprints together. Not a problem. It's our bread and butter. We love doing that stuff. But the problem was with the red flag is they started calling at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and got to even 10 o'clock at night. And initially, it wasn't such a big deal for us because Curtis and I are in the comfort of our home. We're naturally night owls. But until it started consistently being 9 and 10 o'clock at night, I looked at my husband and said, look, if we had a brick and mortar, remember this is when we were remote CAD/CAM programming still, if we had a brick and mortar with a phone like literally attached to the wall at the shop, would we be answering these phone calls this late? Absolutely not. So we had a discussion there, and this is something you're going to do with either your partner or just with yourself. You're going to have to draw boundaries, and sometimes customers aren't going to like it. So what happened in this situation? We told our customers, said, hey, look, we love working with you. Unfortunately, we can't keep taking phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. Anything before 5 o'clock is fine. After 5, we're going to close down for the day. What happened? It was very difficult to communicate with this customer. I really don't know if he had a job in the evening or worked late, and that was the only time he could talk in the evening. If that was the case, email would have been perfectly fine. There's really not much that we talked about that couldn't have been through a conversation in email. Email was 24/7 in my opinion sometimes. Would have been totally fine without a phone call. So, a couple days would go by, a week went by trying to meet these 5 o'clock boundaries. Eventually, the customer just completely disappeared. And we were almost like 2 weeks working into these blueprints for this prototype. It was a lot of waste of time. Disappeared, and unfortunately, that's just part of it. It was our first learning experience. You can't bend over backwards for every single customer. Make a boundary with yourself. You can't not take phone calls that late at night. Next red flag is going to be a sense of urgency. So in this situation, what happened is a customer sent us an RFQ at midnight, and they demanded it be done by 8 o'clock the next morning. Unfortunately, new business, very thankful for the work. We jumped, we did it, we got it out by 8 o'clock the next morning. But what we really should have done was taken a step back and said, why is there such a sense of urgency in this? Did they not prioritize or organize their work, production schedule and get it done on their end? Or maybe they're blacklisted from other companies, so every RFQ they sent out beforehand, there's a bad history going on. Maybe they didn't pay before and they got denied. So they were up against the clock trying to get their RFQ out, reaching out to anybody to try to get this thing submitted before their deadline. But this situation plays into my next red flag, which is going to be, they don't respect your time and they're constantly bugging you for updates. This is what happened. We took that urgent RFQ, got the job going, got a PO, and they called constantly for updates. Constantly, not just emails, calling all the time. And it was another conversation between Curtis and I said, look, we can't do this. If we had a slam-packed production schedule with like a staff of 15, 20 employees, we physically would not have the time to be here answering the phone or typing emails to let this person know an update of their order. If it was a late, if we went over the lead times and they were calling and getting an update, say, hey, what's going on? That would be acceptable. Not a problem with that whatsoever. But for everything to be on time on our end and then to still be breathing down our neck, calling constantly, red flag. Don't be like us. Respect yourself, have boundaries, don't do it. You can always answer back to your customer and say, hey, I'm happy to quote, thank you for the opportunity, but I'm not gonna be able to meet your 8 o'clock deadline. How about, I can get it between 1 and 3 days. That's the normal quoting process for most jobs, is 1 to 3 days. So stick to your boundaries. It's okay to tell your customer no. Let's go on to our next red flag, which is gonna be haggling on your prices. The situation, again, it's an RFQ that comes into the company. We quote it, they come back and say, your price is too high. I can get it cheaper somewhere down the road. This is when we started having boundaries with ourselves. It's like, that's okay, go ahead. And they came back again and they're like, if you don't lower the price, I'm definitely going to this other person. Go ahead, it's okay. I don't know about you guys, but when running a business, you know what your bottom line is gonna be and what profit margin you have to make to keep your employees paid, your machine maintenance fund going, to keep growing. You need money to keep growing. I'm not out to make like 100% profit margin every single job. It's not competitive. I wouldn't lose RFQs out the wazoo. But it's okay to tell a customer no again. Don't let them bully you just because you're afraid they're going to go to the other person. Because I guarantee if they haggle you on this job, they are always going to haggle you from here on out. And probably, realistically, they're probably going to breathe down your neck the entire process of production too. Red flag it. Don't deal with it. Don't do it. Next red flag is going to be a person wanting to visit before they even give you an RFQ. Big red flag. It's gotten to the point where Curtis and I no longer accept any meetings from anybody. So what happened in this situation for us to drastically put our foot down? We had people contacting us saying, hey, I have a lot of work I want to bring you guys. Can we meet in person and talk about it? Sure. Come on over. We welcomed them in. Once they got here, the conversation quickly changed from bringing us work to them wanting to learn how to use a CNC machine. Or wanting to hire us to come teach them how to use a CNC machine. So they came under false pretenses, which is a waste of time. I don't know about you guys too. On a different hand, the way our shop is set up, our CNC machine's here, and right off the screen of this phone is our reception area, our front door. So when someone comes into our shop, we physically have to turn off the machine, otherwise we will not be able to hear you. So not only is it stopping our production, it's wasting our time by taking a meeting where there's really no outcome that's going to be beneficial to our company. I've also realized that people that want to visit your shop in person before sending an RFQ, they're never going to follow through with sending you work. Companies that respect your time and that are actually going to follow through with the RFQ, it's in the PO, they are never, ever going to ask to visit your shop first. The very first thing that they're going to do is send you an RFQ, get a price back, and make sure, one, you're in their ballpark of what they want to spend, and two, to even see if your lead times, and your capacity is available for them. Maybe after all that's done, they might be interested in visiting your shop to, check it out, build a relationship, but they will never, ever come by demanding that they need to see you in person before bringing an RFQ. Huge red flag. draw the line if someone asks that. Just tell them, hey, sorry, we're too busy to take a meeting. Just don't do it. Our next red flag is going to be the customer that sends a massive amount of RFQs for you to quote. In this situation, the customer sent not only one batch of quotes, but two. Each one was like 15 for the first one and then like 40 for the next batch. We were ecstatic and we jumped all over it to get it quoted because that was a massive amount of money that could help Mil-Spec Manufacturing keep growing. Hindsight's always 20/20, and what we realized we did wrong is we quoted that first batch of RFQs, but we should have insisted or waited for a PO to come through to get that production ball rolling. We didn't. There was never a PO that came. So when we started jumping on that next batch, that second batch of RFQs, they very suddenly said, hey, thank you anyways, the price increased and it's no longer capable or possible for us to afford this, and they disappeared. Quoting is a very time-consuming job, especially, like us, we had our production schedule absolutely slammed that week. Poor Curtis was up till almost midnight quoting on this stuff, even after coming home from work. So in my opinion, in the future, if you ever have a customer that's bringing you a massive amount of RFQs, what's probably happening is they're shopping around for price. Quote a couple things, ask them to send a PO to get started, and you'll finish quoting the process, because you don't want to keep working for free if the outcome is not going to bring work for you and your company. I'm going to wrap up this video by talking about our very last red flag. It's the customer that has endless excuses when it comes to why you're not getting paid. In this situation, it was one of our very first production jobs when we transitioned from the remote CAD/CAM program part of our company to the brick and mortar with our CNC machine. Awesome, so excited. It was actually a customer that we had a relationship with that we knew beforehand. So we felt very confident taking this job, and the payment terms were collect on delivery, which means that once you go and you give them their parts, they're supposed to pay you right then and there. A majority of payment terms usually is like a net 30, which is when you would deliver parts and then you would wait 30 days to get paid. Anyways, both parties agreed to collect on delivery. Curtis drove these beautiful parts up there. He hand delivered them. And as they're literally pulling them off the pallet, they're like, wow, these are amazing. They're even taking pictures to update their website. They were that nice. So Curtis is like, this is awesome. This is going to be repeat work from them. They love the work. The quality is great. So he sticks around for a little bit, chats with employees, and he never gets a paycheck. So he happens to see the owner and he goes, hey, the payment terms were collect on delivery. Who should I go to talk to about that? And the owner says, oh, sorry, Curtis. So-and-so in the finance department actually out sick with the flu, but don't worry, I'm gonna let her know that she needs to send you a paycheck. Don't worry, we'll get it out to you. We'll mail it in the mail. Curtis is like, not a problem, it's okay. He leaves, comes home, and a week passes by. Still nothing in the mail, no updates, nothing like that. So we decided to reach out with the email and say, hey, just touching base, just wanted to see maybe you need information or address. Is everything okay on your end? Anything that we can do to help you guys. We get an email back saying, hey, so-and-so is still out. They're sick again. Don't worry, I'm going to personally write you the check. This was the owner again, saying, I'll personally write you a check and I'll put it in the mail. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're like, oh, that's okay. No problem. Outside of business, I'm a mom. I'm human. I understand people get sick. New business. We were not trying to make a big deal. The check's in the mail. They love the parts. It's going to be fine, right, guys? It was not fine. So I think another 2 weeks passed and no check ever showed up. So we reached out again to the owner directly and said, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, sorry, you know what? I'll write a check for you right now and I'll put it in mail. So sorry about that. Okay, another week goes by, still no check. Reached out again, and the owner said, look, I don't have the money. I don't know when we're gonna have the money. It's probably not gonna be till next month. Stop bothering me. I'll get you paid when I have it. That's terrible. I mean, unfortunately, in this industry, there's really not much recourse you can do when your customer's not paying on time. Some people will take it to small claims court, but there's no guarantee that there's actually going to be enforced to pay it even after you win. It's a terrible part of this industry that I really dislike the whole payment terms and net 30s. after production. You wait for your payment to come after production and delivering stuff. And that's a topic for another video, but you know, eventually we did get our paycheck from this customer. It was like 2 months late at that point, maybe even 3, I forget. It was a long time ago. But you know, that's a red flag. If your customer is constantly making excuses why you're not getting paid, you should probably take it as a sign to not work with them again. We have some amazing customers current day that are repeat customers, and literally the process with them is so fluid. It's send the RFQ, they love the price, they don't haggle at all. We get the PO immediately. Let's see, get the PO, we start production, they don't bother us at all. They're very respectful of our time and we're respectful of theirs. We send it out, they get it, and almost majority of people, even if we have a net 30 with them, they pay right away. And that's the type of customers that you guys really want to attract. So I'm hoping with this video and sharing our experiences, even though they are really terrible, and some of them are embarrassing that we dealt with this, you'll be able to identify it early on, save yourself a headache, and you can calculate whether or not it's worth the risk for you as a new business, or maybe you'll say, hey, Becca was right. Quality over quantity, walk away, and respect yourself and your boundaries. Now, I am really, really interested to hear if you guys have experienced anything like this in the past, similar red flags, or share with me what you experienced. I mean, we are constantly learning in this industry. Nobody knows everything. There's always something that you can learn. Let me know in the comment section. And as always, guys, please make sure you like and subscribe so you can actually get notified when our next episodes come out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.